This is What is Awakening with a video about fears. The question came in, how do you deal with your fears? Hello, this is What is Awakening with a video about fears. One of the questions that fluttered in recently was, what do I do with my fears? With really strong fears. There are two major types of fears. One is fears that have a basis in this reality of Maya, which are fears that I won't have enough to eat, a fear of a tiger or a car racing towards me, fears of a deadly disease that I'm suffering from, and so on. So there's a reason, and the fear has a function. So I will not talk about these fears because these fears are a natural part of your personality and how the world works, so that you can run away from danger, from a real present danger. The other type of fear are those fears that do not have a real object to be afraid of in the present moment. They're either about the past or about the future. Mostly about the future, but they're rooted in the past. They're part of your story because as a child you were at some point in a situation that you were not able to deal with. It was impossible to deal with, and you were in probably real danger, but not always. And you were afraid to die. And at this moment, because as a child or a baby you cannot really rationalize things, at this moment you had to choose a certain kind of fear, because this nameless fear is just too much to take. No one can endure it for a long time. So, in order to deal with the fear of monsters, fear of being alone, fear of an adult being crossing your boundaries, maybe even molesting you or whatever. In that moment, you needed to project this nameless terror and horror onto another fear. Like, for example, a fear of spiders, fear of the dark, fear of snakes, fear of dogs, fear of dirt, whatever. And then your personality keeps that fear. It keeps it in its memory data bank and prolongs it. It's like a medication that you do not need to take anymore, but by mistake it keeps written out. Get the prescription again and again and again. And these fears, although they're terrible and can even cause a panic disorder or something, they're possible to deal with. And the way to deal with them is to find the origin. I mentioned it before, but I didn't explain it. For example, you say, I'm afraid of darkness. And you look at it, either by yourself or with a good friend or with a psychologist or coach. Look at it. What is behind the fear of darkness? And if you stick to it, it might not be very quickly. This might be a longer process, or it might be a very short one. Sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a year, who knows? Time's relative anyway. So, you might discover that behind the fear of darkness, there's the fear of being alone, or the fear of being ostracized, or ignored, or something. And behind that, there's another fear. You follow that. What is it I'm really afraid of? How does it work? How does my mind and my emotions work? Where does the fear lead to? Where does it come from? What is the root? And usually, after a while, you get to the conclusion that the deepest fear is fear of death. Because death is one of the big unknowns. You do not know what happens after death. If anything happens after death, if there's a life after death, you might believe in it, but you do not know. But even the fear of death is not the main fear. There's one behind it. And I will not tell you because it's your job to find it out. You wouldn't profit from it if I would tell you. This whole series of videos are supposed to be very practical. Even if you think they're abstract, they're not. They're very practical once you get the hang of it. So, just if you like to get rid of your fears, look at them. Really follow them. You might need help. And then you will arrive at the core fear. The one fear that is behind or at the bottom of every fear. That is not rooted in the present moment to a present danger. Most of the fears, most of the things you're afraid of, they're not here. They're not real and they're not true. If there's a snake in front of you wanting to bite you or to spray poison in your eyes, that's something you can really be afraid of. But if you're generally afraid of snakes and you've probably never even met one, there's something wrong. It's just a program in your mind, in your personality. Your personality kept this part and never discarded it, although it's not useful anymore. As with every aspect of your personality, you cannot really get rid of it, but that's not the aim. That's just our mind wants to get rid of things that are uncomfortable, but that's not how life works. How life works is you realize, not think, but realize really in every part of your body, mind and soul, you realize that there's really nothing to be afraid of. It was just a program, like a radio program. There was this radio program once by Orson Welles where he announced that the aliens were coming. And many people believed it because they thought, okay, it's in the radio, it's a newscast, it must be true. No, but it was with all things is the same. Nothing you hear or say is true anyway. But we are trapped in this reality, in this Maya. So if there's a tiger trying to eat you, you better think of something. If not, there's no point to be afraid of tigers or any other threat that is not present, that you only heard about. Huh? Usually there are also some people profiting from fear of others. Yeah? They can sell something if others are afraid. But that's only within Maya. If you don't count Maya, every fear is unreal, or at least untrue. So do this as an exercise if you like. Follow your fear until the end, until the last point, and see where it leads you. If you like, you can write me an email as well if the comments are too public for you. I had a similar discussion or conversation with a friend recently, and at the end of more or less what I said now, he said, okay, sounds good. What do I do now? Nothing. You follow this fear. Everything you can think of that justifies this fear or justifies running away from the fear, it justifies getting rid of the fear, it's just a way to avoid solving the problem. The last thing your mind wants is to get out of its clandestine incognito mode. Yeah? It wants to be taken seriously, but that is the last thing you should do. Do not take your mind, your thoughts, your emotions seriously. It's all bogus. Everything is well, all is well. Right now there's a big fear going around of clandestine deep state superpowers taking over the world. In the Maya reality there might be truth to it, but from a higher perspective, nothing ever happens. All is well. There's nothing to worry about. It's just a distraction to keep the drama going. The mind loves dramas. Just see what kind of movies you like. Everyone likes a drama movie or horror or an action movie. No one watches a movie where nothing happens all the time and everyone is just sitting around happily smiling. It would be boring. Boredom is your best friend. See, right now, for example, I wanted to try out for the first time what kind of background I could use for the videos with me in them. I got the feedback that would be much nicer to see me than not to see me. So I'm trying this out today, and I'm in a very secluded spot in nature. And what happens, all kinds of joggers and bicyclists and outdoor enthusiasts come by, which never happens here. Only now when I want to do this video here, it's the big gathering. But so what? There are some people laughing in the background, having fun. Why not? That's not a big problem. It's just my expectation was that I would be alone here. It's not the case, so what? This is not a fear, but it's the kind of thing how our mind works. Yeah? Maybe I'm afraid of ants and there are ants on the floor. So what do? I look at the problem. Are ants really dangerous for me? These are not killer ants from the Amazon. These are just normal tiny wood forest ants. They don't do anything. But if I'm afraid of them, it's usually a projection. So I can find out which kind of fear I project onto the ants. In the end, I will arrive at the fear of death. And behind that, there's one more fear. And that's basically the only problem we have. And that's not even existent. But you have to see it for yourself. I cannot tell you. If you find that, something will make click and the fear will disappear. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoy the video. Give me some feedback if you like this kind of video, which is more personal, better. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the bell button and see you with the next video. Please ask questions. I prefer to make videos about things that really bother you, that really hold an interest for you, that are really urgent for you.